This is where we take complex goals, look at the source material, and really try to pull out clear, actionable strategies for you.
That's right.
And today, we're tackling a big one. It's something many language learners aim for, moving past just knowing English to actually speaking it naturally.
Yeah, getting that authentic sound.
We've gone through the sources you sent us, really dug deep, and our mission today is to unpack the core ideas, the mindset shifts, the phonetic stuff, and the practical techniques that help you bridge that gap,
Yeah.
from textbook English to real conversation.
And that phrase, speak like a native, it can sound, well, pretty daunting, can't it? Almost impossible sometimes.
Definitely. It brings up ideas of perfect accents, zero mistakes.
But what the sources really emphasize is that the goal isn't like becoming a linguistic clone. It's about achieving natural communication and, importantly, building that confidence.
That's such a key distinction, isn't it? For learners, especially maybe intermediate ones, you're not trying to erase who you are or sound exactly like someone from, say, Chicago or London.
Yes, exactly.
The real win isn't sounding identical. It's being understood, speaking smoothly, and feeling comfortable enough to just talk without constantly judging yourself.
Precisely. The aim is sounding natural, which isn't the same as sounding perfect. Think about it real. Natural speech has pauses, fillers, informal bits. If you're only focused on avoiding errors, you often sacrifice that flow, that fluency. The real breakthrough, the aha moment, is when you realize, okay, people understand me. I can keep a conversation going without major stress. That's success.
Okay, great starting point. So let's get into the how. Where does this journey to natural speech begin? Well, it starts with input. The first big tip from the sources seems simple, but maybe underestimated. Listen, a lot.
It sounds almost too obvious, doesn't it? Just listen to English. But the key here is the amount and the type of listening. You really need to immerse yourself.
So not just passively having the TV on?
Right. It means actively listening to authentic stuff.
Yeah.
Movies, YouTube videos, music, podcasts, anything where people are talking naturally, conversationally, not just reading a script,
And the benefit of doing all this listening,
Yeah.
it's about internalizing how English actually sounds when it's spoken, right? Not just learning words.
Exactly. You start picking up on the rhythm, the intonation, and crucially, connected speech. That's often a big hurdle for learners.
Connected speech? You mean how words kind of blend together?
Yeah. When native speakers talk at a normal pace, words don't stay separate. Sounds get dropped. That's elision, like going to becoming gonna.
Okay.
Or sounds change based on what's next to them. Assimilation. Like in 10 books, the end might sound a bit more like, textbooks teach, what are you going to do? But your ear needs to learn to catch the natural flow. So get it to do.
That's a huge difference. If you only know the written form, spoken English can sound like people are skipping words.
But it's not skipping, it's efficiency. It's the natural rhythm. Hearing, how's it going, or what's up, instead of a stiff, how are you today? That input builds your mental library of how people really talk.
Okay, so you build up this library through listening. Then what? How do you activate it?
Well, that brings us to tip 7. Actively imitating what you hear. Turning that listening into speaking practice.
Right, so it's not just about the words themselves, but copying the music of the language. Is that what prosody means?
That's a great way to put it. Prosody, the rhythm, the speed, the intonation patterns. English has its own specific music. It's a stress-timed language.
Stress-timed, unlike some other languages that might be syllable-timed.
Exactly. In English, we punch certain words in a sentence, the important ones, and the little unstressed words get squeezed together. Think about, I went to the store. The key info is went and store. They're quick and weak.
Ah, so if a learner gives equal weight to every single word.
They sound robotic. Even if the individual words are pronounced okay, it's about matching the stress pattern. If you hear, how are you doing today? You need to copy that specific up and down pattern.
Okay, makes sense. So how do you practice that specific copying?
The technique recommended is shadowing. It's pretty direct.
Yeah.
You take a very short audio clip, maybe one sentence from a show. You listen, pause the audio, and immediately repeat it, trying to match the speaker's speed, rhythm, and pitch. Exactly, like being a vocal echo.
Sounds intense.
It takes focus, yeah. But it forces your mouth and vocal cords to learn the physical movements, the muscle memory for English rhythm. It's way more effective than just repeating vocabulary lists.
So shadowing really connects that input, the listening, directly to output, which I guess brings us right to the big fear factor, actually trying to produce the sounds yourself and worrying about getting it wrong. Yeah, let's talk about that fear. The second you open your mouth, that little voice says, what if I mess up? what if I sound stupid? It can be paralyzing.
Absolutely. And that's why tip 2 is maybe the most important mindset shift. You have to be okay with making mistakes. Seriously, don't be afraid of them.
So change the goal. It's not about perfect grammar every time. It's about connection, getting your meaning across.
Precisely. All the sources hammer this home. Mistakes are just data. They show you're experimenting, pushing your limits. If you stay silent because you're scared of errors, you actually risk those errors becoming permanent or fossilized.
Fossilized, you mean the mistake gets stuck?
Yeah, exactly. It becomes a fixed habit because you either avoided speaking or just kept making the same mistake without realizing or correcting it. By speaking, even with errors, you keep things flexible. Think about learning guitar. You hit tons of wrong notes before you play a song smoothly. Mistakes are just part of practicing.
Okay, I get that philosophically, but what if the mistakes are so big they stop people from understanding you? Isn't there a point where we need to say, okay, that mistake actually matters? We can't just ignore everything, right?
That's a really important nuance. And it leads us straight to tip 4. We're not saying ignore all errors. We're saying embrace the act of speaking first. But the sources clarify. You need to focus on clear pronunciation, clear enough to be understood, rather than obsessing over achieving one specific native accent.
Ah, the accent trap. So many learners feel they have to choose, am I learning American English or British English? And they stress about sounding perfectly like one or the other.
But think about it. A Londoner and a Texan sound vastly different, yet both are native speakers. Trying to perfectly copy one specific accent adds huge pressure and can actually slow down your overall progress towards just being clear.
So the goal is intelligibility, not imitation.
Exactly. Be understood. Instead of trying to nail, say, a perfect received pronunciation vowel sound, focus on the sounds that most often cause confusion if mispronounced. Or even better, focus on features that impact rhythm.
Like what?
Well, one massive one in English is the schwa sound, that little weak, unstressed sound.
The schwa. Right, it barely sounds like anything.
Exactly. It's the sound in the A of about, or the O of today, or the E of system. It's everywhere in unstressed syllables. Mastering when to use the schwa is arguably much more important for sounding natural than, say, perfecting the sound.
Why is it so important?
Because using the schwa correctly creates the rhythm of English. It allows you to de-stress the unimportant syllables and words, making the key words stand out. If you pronounce every vowel fully and clearly, your speech becomes slow, heavy, and unnatural. Reducing those unstressed vowels is key to natural rhythm.
So the focus shifts. It's not sound like a New Yorker. It's make sure your rhythm is right by stressing the important bits and weakening the unimportant ones, often using schwa.
Got it. And the best way to practice this, according to the sources, use tech. Listen to a native speaker. Repeat. And this is a crucial record, yourself speaking.
Nobody likes hearing their own voice.
I know. But your ear tricks you when you're speaking. You need to hear the playback to compare it objectively to the original. That feedback loop helps you spot the differences and self-correct for clarity without getting bogged down in chasing a perfect accent.
Okay, so we've covered listening, imitating rhythm, and focusing on clarity over accent perfection, plus embracing mistakes. Now let's talk about making speech flow more smoothly, moving beyond single words.
Yes. Tip 3 is all about using common phrases and expressions, what linguists sometimes call language chunks or lexical bundles.
Language chunks, right. So instead of building every sentence from individual bricks of grammar.
Use prefabricated sections. Native speakers do this constantly. It's much faster and less mentally taxing. We don't consciously think, okay, verb be, third person singular, is nice. We just pull out the whole chunk. Nice to meet you.
Can you give more examples? What's a lexical bundle versus just a common phrase?
Well, how are you is a common phrase. A lexical bundle might be a slightly longer recurring sequence like, as far as I know, or on the other hand, or it seems to me that these act like single units.
Ah, okay. So using these chunks frees up your brain.
Massively. It reduces the cognitive load. You don't have to worry about the grammar within the chunk. You just deploy it. It lets you focus on the next part of your message. When you finish a chat, you don't consciously choose between take and care and it and easy. You just grab take it easy or take care.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having shortcuts.
Exactly.
Wow.
And this includes idioms, too. Learning things like, it's raining cats and dogs, or he spilled the beans, adds that authentic flavor. You pick these up from listening, from context.
And a lot of these chunks and idioms, they probably fall into more informal language, right? Which leads to tip 5, learning slang in informal English.
Yes, slang is unavoidable in real life. If you only speak super formal, textbook English all the time,
Yeah.
it might sound competent, sure, but maybe a bit distant
Hmm.
or old-fashioned. Using common informal words or phrases like chill out for relax or awesome for great, or even how like is sometimes used, it's just part of everyday casual chat. It helps you connect socially.
Okay, but here's a potential problem. Slang changes fast, right? And it can be really regional. How does a learner know what's current and okay to use versus something that sounds dated or just weird? Isn't there a risk of using it badly?
That is a huge risk, and the sources are really clear on this. Use slang with care. The advice is generally to stick to common, widely understood informalisms, not super niche or brand new stuff you saw on one TikTok video.
So err on the side of caution.
Definitely. And know your context. Slang is for friends, casual settings. Never, ever use it in a job interview, a formal presentation, or writing a professional email. Getting the formality wrong is much worse than sounding slightly too formal in a casual chat.
Good rule of thumb. Listen lots, absorb common informal stuff, but if you're unsure, just use standard English. Connect first, be cool later maybe.
That's a perfect way to put it. And speaking of the messiness of real conversation, that brings us to tip 8. This one often surprises learners. It's actually good to use fillers and hesitation markers.
You mean things like, like, we should deliberately use those. Why? They sound like mistakes.
But in natural speech, they're often not mistakes. They're functional. They're called discourse markers. They do important jobs. Psychologically, they buy you thinking time. Time to find a word, figure out grammar, or just decide your next point.
That thinking time is vital, especially if you're working in a second language. A silent pause might feel really awkward, or someone might jump in.
Exactly. Conversationally, fillers like, signal, I'm still thinking, don't interrupt yet, I haven't finished my thought.
Yeah.
It keeps the floor. Compare a long, dead silence while you search for a word versus smoothly saying, the point I wanted to make was, it keeps the conversation flowing much better.
So, counterintuitively, if I manage to speak absolutely perfectly with no pauses, no ums or us, I might actually sound less natural, maybe even robotic.
In many situations, yes, especially casual ones. Flawless, perfectly paced speech can sound like you're reading a script or giving a formal announcement. Real thought processes are a bit messy. Now, the type of filler matters, of course. Overusing like might sound unprofessional in some contexts, whereas well or I mean are pretty neutral hesitation markers. It's about using them appropriately, not eliminating them entirely.
Okay, we've talked about input, output mechanics, pronunciation, mindset. Now let's turn inward. What about the practice you do inside your own head? Tip 6 seems crucial here. Try to actually think in English.
Yes, this is a big leap. It's moving from being a translator in your head to being a direct processor of English. As long as you're constantly going from your native language English speak, there's a delay. It slows you down. Natural speech needs a more direct pathway.
It sounds great, but stopping that internal translation feels really hard. It's such an ingrained habit. How do you even start?
The advice is to start small, but make it consistent. Try narrating your day to yourself, silently, in English. When you get up, okay, I'm getting out of bed, need to brush my teeth, what's for breakfast? Just simple stuff.
So labeling things and actions around you?
Exactly. Look at your desk. Okay, there's my laptop, a cup of coffee, and notebook. You're forcing your brain to connect the object or action directly to the English word, bypassing your native language.
You're building that direct path.
Precisely. Over time, this internal monologue practice speeds up your ability to find words when you actually need to speak. Your response time gets faster.
That makes sense. Internal practice is key. But we also need to practice the physical act of speaking, right? Which brings us to tip 9. Read out loud.
Yes. Reading aloud is surprisingly effective. It does a couple of things. First, it's physical practice for your mouth, tongue, jaw, getting them used to making English sounds in sequence.
And it's low pressure, isn't it? No conversation partner waiting for you. You can just focus on the sounds.
Right. You can practice things like linking words together, trying out those weak forms like the schwa we talked about, working on rhythm and pace, all without the anxiety of a live conversation. Plus, you hear yourself.
So you get instant feedback. If something sounds clunky or unnatural when you say it out loud, you notice it.
Exactly. You might read a sentence silently and think it's fine, but when you say it, you realize, oh, that rhythm feels wrong, or I stumbled over those connected words. It combines comprehension with physical production practice.
It's like practicing the prosody, the music, but with a correct script in front of you.
Precisely. It builds confidence and fluency in articulating sentences smoothly.
Okay, so we have thinking in English, reading aloud, which brings us to the final tip, and it's probably the one that underpins everything. Tip 10. Be patient and consistent.
Absolutely fundamental. Fluency doesn't happen overnight. Learning all this stuff, the chunks, the rhythm, the slang, getting comfortable with mistakes, it takes time, a lot of time. You have to celebrate the small wins.
Like managing a short conversation without freezing up,
Yeah.
or using a new idiom correctly.
Yes, every small step forward is progress. Don't get discouraged by how far you still have to go. And the key to making progress is consistency.
And consistency doesn't mean cramming for 5 hours once a month, right?
No, definitely not. The sources strongly suggest that short, regular practice sessions are far more effective. Even just 10 or 15 minutes a day, focused practice, whether it's shadowing, reading aloud, thinking in English, or reviewing phrases,
Why is that better?
because it keeps the information fresh in your mind. Regular recall strengthens memory pathways. It turns the practice into a habit. Habit beats occasional intensity every time when it comes to language learning. #tag outro.
Wow, okay. That was a really practical deep dive. We've gone from the absolute basics, listening effectively and imitating the sounds and rhythms, through to the nuts and bolts of sounding more fluid with chunks and, yes, even fillers. And crucially, we've hit on that core mindset. Aiming for clear communication, not some unattainable idea of perfection. Plus, that vital internal work of thinking directly in English.
It really does all weave together.
Yep.
It comes down to embracing the learning journey, knowing that natural speech isn't perfect speech, and building confidence through consistent strategic practice. If you apply these ideas, that natural fluency really does start to develop.
So as we wrap up today's deep dive on speaking English naturally, we want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. It connects back to things like slang, fluency, and how language changes. Language is alive, right? It's always evolving. New words pop up, slang changes, usage shifts. And sounding truly natural often means using the language as it's currently commonly spoken. So here's the question. If the target native-like speech is constantly moving because the language itself is moving, is aiming for a fixed point of perfection actually impossible?
Ooh, interesting point.
Honor is embracing that change, using the language fluidly, even with its common imperfections like fillers or evolving slang. Is that the most native-like and therefore the most natural thing you can actually do? Something to think about as you continue your journey.